Celestial Whisper.
Hello, welcome to our library. Are you here for a new library card? Yes? Okay. Well, for the library card, I'm just going to need to take some of your basic information and also which books you like and different preferences that you have, just so we know what to recommend to you, and also different areas to recommend to you in our library. So we begin by your last name. Okay. Your first name. Your date of birth. And now I need your permanent street address. Okay, now I need your email address, please. So, is this application for a new library card or a replacement? A new one? Okay. And for your account, you need to choose a 4-digit personal identification number. So, may I have that, please? Yeah, any 4 numbers is fine. Okay. In what way would you prefer to receive notices from the library? Do you want emails or telephone text messages? Okay, please may I have your phone number? Okay, and is this account for a multiple amount of people or just you? Just you. Okay, so that is all the information we need. Now I need to go through all of the genres that we have and see which ones you like. So, do you like science fiction? Yeah. Drama? Romance books, like love stories or anything like that? No? Okay. Mystery? Yeah. Horror books? Yeah. We actually have a good deal of horror and crime books going on, and we have some collections of different authors, like Stephen King. Most of his books are quite scary, and they have good plots to them. We also have more mystery and crime books by Jo Nesbø, and we have the other selection of books written by Joe Nestor. Yeah, the limit here at our library is 6 books at a time. So if you want, you can get 6 different books. It doesn't matter what type. We have different books such as cooking books, children's books, anything that you'd like. And if you take them out, you bring them back as soon as you're finished reading them. So other genres that we have are health books. Yeah, they range from, fitness books to nutrition ones. Yeah. Travel guides. Children's books. Yeah, it's always good to get some children's books for family, friends, bringing over children, or if you're going to see someone with a child. The children's books that we have here are ones for younger children here, and we also have ones for children who are learning their alphabet. We also have ones for books to read with children, and this one's called Just So Stories, and they're just fun stories like how the whale got his throat, with some illustrations as well. Or how the camel got his hump. Or how the rhinoceros got his skin. How the leopard got his spots. There's a wide range of fun short stories to read to children or to adults. It's for anyone, I think. And we have ones for teenagers as well, or pre-teens, like these ones, and they're more colourful with illustrations of dogs, cats, and interesting pages that are fun to read. This book also has another book with it, written by the same author, except this one has pizza, fish, birds, snakes, flowers on it, but it's written in close to the same style. Do you like cooking books? Yeah? We actually have a wide range of cooking books. Like, we have this series here, which is recipes from around the world, and it's a series of books. There's recipes from Morocco, from Japan, recipes from Greece, best of Spain, Ireland, Italy, Thailand, China, and India. And these books cover everything from spices, techniques, recipes. So you have starters and soups, fish and shellfish, chicken and meat, side dishes, and desserts. And this is how they're laid out. We also have specific books if you'd like pastry books or chicken books. We also have books for events, like if you're getting married, we have bridal books here. And this one in particular just has positive quotes and thoughts about marriage. We have one specific to the bride and to the groom. We also have classics like The Odyssey or Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And we also have course books. Now, course books are the ones that deal with specific courses that you may take. Like, for an example, if you're taking an accounting and auditing course, we have your book here. Or if you're doing French and Spanish, we have those as well. We have a lot of different things that you could get in this library. So, when you actually get your membership here at our library, we ask you to give us a list of different authors that you may like, just so we know what we have in stock for you, and we can send you information about new books or anything that you might think that you would like. So please give me a list of some of your favourite authors, please. Thank you. Oh yeah, we have a lot of books by that author, so you'll enjoy yourself here. Yeah, don't worry. If the author is someone that is not really known, we could actually contact some publishers to see whether they have the books of that author and get them here straight away. Yeah, so any author is fine. Yes, it doesn't have to be just authors that you like. If you are getting a book for someone to read that isn't you, then that's fine. We'll still recommend that author to you. Okay? Yeah, about 3 more authors will do. Okay, great. So, looking into the books that we have on special offer, just to recap, just in case you forgot, we have a collection of Stephen King books, Joe Nesbo, Lee Child that we still have in our cabinets. We have a series of psychology books that you may be interested in. We have this author here. Sorry? Oh, you'd like me to read a passage? Yeah, okay. This is Black Cats. So it begins. Right here and now, as an old friend used to say, we are in the fluid present, where clear-sightedness never guarantees perfect vision. Here, about 200 feet, the height of a gliding eagle, above Wisconsin's far western edge, where the vagaries of the Mississippi River declare a natural border. Now, an early Friday morning in mid-July, a few years into both a new century and a new millennium, their wayward courses so hidden that a blind man has a better chance of seeing what lies ahead than you or I. Right here and now, the hour is just past 6 a.m., and the sun stands low in the cloudless eastern sky, a fat, confident yellow-white ball, advancing as ever for the first time toward the future, and leaving in its wake the steadily accumulating past, which darkens as it recedes, making blind men of us all. Below, the early sun touches the river's wide, soft ripples with molten highlights. Sunlight glints from the tracks of the Burlington Northern Santa Railroad, running between the riverbank and the backs of the shabby 2-story houses along Country Road, known as Nail House Row, the lowest point of the comfortable-looking little town, extending uphill and eastward behind us. At this moment, in the Coulee country, life seems to be holding its breath. The motionless air around us carries such remarkable purity and sweetness that you might imagine a man could smell a radish pull out of the ground a mile away. Seems like quite an interesting book, and it's one without a blurb. So this book is written by two authors. It's written by Stephen King and Peter Straub, and it's quite a large book. I think in total it has 29 chapters for you to read. Oh, you'd like to take this out? Okay. I could take it out in your name. Whenever you get your first book here at the library, you get a free bookmark. So let me put it in our systems for you. I just need to get the referencing number. Okay. So when you begin with us, you get a temporary library card, and it's just a simple one here. And then after your first month with us, you get a more better quality card, and I'll just register this by stamping it, just so we have it in our records. And I'll also place a slip inside your book. Just so when you return it, it is in our systems. So this is for you. Would you like me to read you another book, or part of another book, where you could just get to see the way that the book is written, or the topic? Yeah? Well, I have Doctor Sleep by Stephen King. The Snowman by Jo Nesbø. Devil's Star by Jo Nesbø. And The Redeemer by Jo Nesbø. The Redeemer? Okay. So this is what the blurb reads. On the third day he rose again to kill. It is a freezing December night, and Christmas shoppers have gathered to listen to a Salvation Army carol concert. Then a shot rings out and one of the singers falls to the floor, dead. Detective Harry Hole and his team are called in to investigate, but have little to work with. There is no immediate suspect, no weapon, and no motive. But when the assassin discovers he's shot the wrong man, Harry finds his troubles have only just begun. This book is quite intense. Part 1. Advent. She was 14 years old and sure that if she shut her eyes tight and concentrated, she could see the stars through the roof. All around her, women were breathing, regular, heavy, nighttime breathing. One was snoring, and that was Auntie Sarah, whom they had allocated a mattress beneath the open window. She closed her eyes and tried to breathe like the others. It was difficult to sleep, especially because everything around her was so new and different. The sounds of the night and the forest beyond the window in Ostgard were different. The people she knew from the meetings in the citadel and the summer camps were somehow not the same. She was not the same either. The face and body she saw in the mirror this summer were new. And her emotions, these strange hot and cold currents that flowed through her when boys looked at her. Some saucy books we got here. So we have the series of Jo Nesbø. We also have the Stephen King books. There's also The Odyssey by Homer. And these are the Penguin Classic versions. We also have the really big versions as well, just in case you wanted to read those ones. Yeah, sure, I could read you some of this. Have you heard of this story before? Or read it? Okay. So, Chapter 1. Tell me, Muse, the story of that resourceful man who was driven to wander far and wide after he had sacked the holy citadel of Troy. He saw the cities of many people, and he learned their ways. He suffered great anguish on the high seas in his struggles to preserve his life and bring his comrades home. But he failed to save those comrades, in spite of all his efforts. It was their own transgression that brought them to their doom, for in their folly they had devoured the oxen of Hyperion, the sun god, and he saw to it that they would never return. Tell us this story, goddess, daughter of Zeus, beginning at whatever point you will. All the survivors of the war had reached their homes by now, and so put their perils of battle and the sea behind them. Odysseus alone was prevented from returning to the home and wife he yearned for by that powerful goddess, the nymph Calypso, who longed for him to marry her and kept him in her vaulted cave. Not even when the rolling seasons brought in the year, which the gods had chosen for his homecoming to Ithaca, was he clear of his troubles and safe among his friends. Yet all the gods pitied him, except Poseidon, who pursued the heroic Odysseus with relentless malice till the day when he reached his own country. This book recounts the story of Odysseus and his returns to Ithaca, and it tells us how, championed by Athene and hounded by the wrathful sea god Poseidon, Odysseus encounters the ferocious Cyclops, escapes Scylla and Charybdis, and yields temporarily to the lures of Circe and Calypso before he overcomes the trials awaiting him on Ithaca. Only then is he reunited with his faithful wife Penelope, his wanderings at an end. So this, I think, is quite a good book to read as well. We also do professional book readings at our library, and the book of the day will be listed outside our doors, and then you can see which books that you like from there, and then you can come in and have the book read by the author, him or herself, or by a professional book reader. So these book readings happen every other day, and the book of the day, or 2 days, will be read on both days that it is there for, and then the book will be replaced by another one on the day after that. So let me just finish up your application, and then I'll give you your card and we'll see what happens from there. Would you like to take out the Odyssey? Yeah? Okay, so let me finish off your application. What's my favorite book? I don't really have a favorite book, but I think when I was growing up I really enjoyed the Just So stories, because they're just fun little books. Little stories. If you'd like, I could read you one. Yeah. So, there's how the whale got his throat, how the camel got his hump, how the rhinoceros got his skin, how the leopard got his spots, the elephant's child, the sing-song of an old man kangaroo, the beginning of armadillos, how the first letter was written, how the alphabet was made, the crab that played with the sea, the cat that walked by himself, or the butterfly that stamped. How the alphabet was made? Okay. The week after Taffy May Metalume made that little mistake about her daddy's spear and the stranger man and the picture letter and all, she went carp fishing again with her daddy. Her mummy wanted her to stay at home. And help hang up hides to dry on their big drying poles outside their Neolithic cave. But Taffy slipped away down to her daddy quite early, and they fished. Presently she began to giggle, and her daddy said, "Don't be silly, child." "But wasn't it enticing?" said Taffy. "Don't you remember how the head chief pulled out his cheeks, and how funny the nice stranger man looked with his mud in his hair?" "Well, do I?" said Tegume. "I had to pay 2 deerskins, soft ones with fringes, to the stranger man for the things we did to him." "We didn't do anything," said Taffy. "It was Mummy and the other Neolithic ladies, and the mud." "We won't talk about that," said her daddy. "Let's have lunch." Taffy took a marrowbone and sat mousy quiet for 10 whole minutes, while her daddy scratched on pieces of birch bark with a shark's tooth. Then she said, "Daddy, I've thinked of a secret surprise. You make a noise, any sort of noise." "Ah," said Tegume. "Will that do to begin with?" "Yes," said Taffy. "You look just like a carp fish with its mouth open. Say it again, please." "Ah, ah, ah," said her daddy. "Don't be rude, my daughter." "I'm not meaning rude, really and truly," said Taffy. "It's part of my secret surprise, think. Do say ah, Daddy, and keep your mouth open at the end, and lend me that tooth. I'm going to draw a carp's fish mouth wide open." "What for?" said her daddy. "Don't you see?" said Taffy, scratching away on the bark. "That will be our secret surprise. When I draw a carp fish with its mouth open in the smoke and the back of our cave, if Mummy doesn't mind, it will remind you of that ah noise. Then we can play with it. Same as I did in the beaver swamp last winter." "Really?" said her daddy, in that voice that grown-ups use when they are truly attending. "Go on, Taffy." "Oh, bother," she said. "I can't draw all of a carpfish, but I can draw something that means a carpfish mouth. Don't you know how they stand on their heads, rooting in the mud? Well, here's a pretense carpfish. Here's just his mouth, that means ah," and she drew this. This is what she drew. "That's not bad," said Tegume, and scratched on his own piece of bark for himself. "But you've forgotten that feeler that hangs across his mouth." "But I can't draw, Daddy." "You needn't draw anything of him except just the opening of his mouth and the feeler across. Then we'll know he's a carpfish, 'cause the perches and trouts haven't got feelers. Look here, Taffy," and he drew this. "Now I'll copy it," said Taffy. Will you understand this when you see it?" And she drew this. "Perfectly," said her daddy, "and I'll be quite as surprised when I see it anywhere, as if you jumped out from behind a tree and said, 'Ah!' Now make another noise," said Taffy, very proud. "Yeah," said her daddy, very loud. Said Taffy. "That's a mixy noise. The end part is ah, carpfish mouth. But what can we do with the front part? Yeah, and ah, yeah. It's very like a carpfish mouth noise. Let's draw another bit of a carpfish and join them, said her daddy. He was quite excited too. No, if they're joined, I'll forget. Draw it separate. Draw his tail. If he's standing on his head, the tail will come first. Sides. I think I can draw the tail easiest, said Taffy. A good notion, said Tegimo. Here's a carpfish tail for the yeah noise, and he drew this. I'll try now, said Taffy. Remember, I can't draw like you, Daddy. Will it do if I just draw the slit part of the tail? And a sticky down line from where it joins? And she drew this. Her daddy nodded, and his eyes were shiny bright with excitement. That's beautiful, she said. Now make another noise, Daddy. Oh, said her daddy very loud. That's quite easy, said Taffy. You make your mouth all round like an egg or a stone. So an egg or a stone will do for that. You can't always find eggs or stones. We'll have to scratch around something like one. And he drew this. My gracious, said Taffy. What a lot of noise pictures we've made. Carp mouth, carp tail, and egg. Now make another noise, Daddy. Shh, said her daddy, and frowned to himself, but Taffy was too excited to notice. That's quite easy, she said, scratching on the back. What? Said her daddy. I meant I was thinking and didn't want to be disturbed. It's a noise just the same. It's the noise that a snake makes, Daddy, when it is thinking and doesn't want to be disturbed. Let's make a shh noise, a snake. Will this do? And she drew this. There, she said. It's another surprise secret. When you draw a hissy snake by the door of your little back cave, where you mend the spears, I'll know you're thinking hard, and I'll come in the most mousy quiet. And if you draw it on a tree by the river when you're fishing, I'll know that you want me to walk by the most mousy quiet, so as not to shake the banks. Perfectly true, said Tegimo. And there's more in this game than you think, Taffy dear. I have a notion that your daddy's daughter has hit upon the finest thing that there ever was since the tribe of Tegimo took to using shark's teeth instead of flints for their spearheads. I believe we found out the biggest secret of the world. Why? Said Taffy, and her eyes shone too with excitement. I'll show you, said her daddy. What's water in the Tegimo language? Ya, of course, and it means river too, like Wagaiya and the Wagai River. What's a bad water that gives you fever if you drink it? Black water, swamp water. Yo, of course. Now look, said her daddy. Suppose you saw this scratched by the side of a pool in the beaver swamp, and he drew this. Carp tail and round egg, two noises mixed. Yo, bad water, said Taffy. 'Cause I wouldn't drink that water because I know you said it was bad. But I needn't be near that water at all. I might be miles away hunting, and still it would be just the same if you stood here and said, Go away, Taffy, or you'll get a fever. All that in a carp fish tail and a round egg. Oh, Daddy, we must tell Mummy, quick. And Taffy danced all around him. Not yet, said Tegimo. Not till we've gone a little further. Let's see. Yo is bad water, but so is food cooked on the fire, isn't it? And he drew this. so that means dinner's ready. If you saw that scratched on a tree, you'd know it was time to come to the cave. So had I. My Winky, said Tegumai, that's true too. But wait a minute, I see a difficulty. So means come and have dinner, but sho means the drying poles where we hang our hides. Horrid old drying poles, said Tuffy. I hate helping to hang heavy, hot, hairy hides on them. If you drew the snake and egg, and I thought it meant dinner, and I came up from the wood and found that it meant I was to help Mummy hang hides from the drying poles, what would I do? You'd be cross, so'd Mummy. We must make a new picture for show. We must draw a spotty snake that hisses shh, shh, and we'll play that plain snake only hisses sss. I couldn't be sure how to put on the spots, said Tuffy, and perhaps if you were in a hurry you might leave them out. And I think it was so when I said show, and then Mummy would catch me just the same. No, I think we better draw a picture of the horrid high drying poles, their very selves, and make quite sure. I'll put them in just after the hissy snake. Look, and she drew this. Perhaps that's safest. It's like our own drying poles anyhow, said her daddy. Now I'll make a new noise with the snake and drying pole sound in it. I'll say, shy, let's Tegumai for spear, Tuffy, and he laughed. Don't make fun of me, said Tuffy, as she thought of her picture letter and the mud in the stranger man's hair. You draw it, Daddy. We won't have beavers or hills this time, eh? Said her daddy. I'll just draw a straight line for my spear, and he drew this. Even Mummy couldn't mistake that for me being killed. Please don't, Daddy. It makes me uncomfy. Do some more noises. We're getting on beautifully. Ahem, said Tegumai, looking up. We'll say shoo. That means sky. Taffy drew the snake and the drying pole. Then she stopped. We must make a new picture for that end sound, mustn't we? Shoo, shoo, ooh, 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 said her daddy. Why, it's just like the round egg sound made thin. Then suppose we draw a thin round egg and pretend it's a frog that hasn't eaten anything for years. No, no, said her daddy. If we draw that in a hurry, we might mistake it for the round egg itself. Shoo, shoo, shoo. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll open a little hole as the end of the round egg to show how the O runs out all thin. Ooh, 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 like this. And he drew this. Oh, that's lovely. Much better than a thin frog. Go on, said Taffy, using her shark's tooth. Her daddy went on drawing, and his hand shook with the excitement. He went on till he had drawn this. Don't look up, Tuffy, he said. Try if you can make out what it means in the Tegumai language. If you can, we found the secret. Snake, pole, broken egg, carp tail, and carp mouth. Said Tuffy. Shoo-ya, sky water, rain. Just then a drop fell on her hand, for the day had clouded over. Why, Daddy, it's raining. Was that what you meant to tell me? Of course, said her daddy, and I told you without saying a word, didn't I? Well, I think I would have known it in a minute, but that raindrop made me quite sure. I'll always remember now. Shuya means rain, or it's going to rain. Why, Daddy! She got up and danced all around him. Suppose you went up before I was awake and drawed Shuya in the smoke on the wall. I'd know it was going to rain, and I'd take my beaver skin hood, Wouldn't Mummy be surprised? Tegumai got up and danced. Daddies didn't mind doing those things in those days. More than that, he said. Suppose I wanted to tell you it wasn't going to rain that much, and you must come down to the river. What would we draw? Say the words in Tegumai talk first. Shuya las Yamaru, which means sky water ending, river come to. What a lot of new sounds. I don't see how we can draw them. But I do, said Tegumai. Just attend a minute, Taffy. And we won't do any more today. We got Shuya all right, haven't we? But this las is a teaser. La la la. And he waved his shark tooth. There's that hissy snake at the end of the carp mouth, before the snake. Us, us, us. We only want la la la, said Taffy. I know, but we have to make la la la. And we're the first people in all the world who'd ever tried to do it. Taffy Mai. Well, said Taffy, yawning, for she was rather tired. Las means breaking or finishing as well as ending, doesn't it? So it does, said Tegumai. Your las means that there's no water in the tank for Mummy to cook with, just when I'm going hunting too. And Shilas means that your spear is broken. If only I'd thought of that instead of drawing silly beaver pictures for the stranger. La la la, said Tegumai, waving his stick and frowning. Oh, bother. I could have drawn shy quite easily, Taffy went on. Then I'd have drawn your spear all broken, this way, and she drew. The very thing, said Tegumai. That's la all over. It isn't like any of your other marks either. And he drew this. Now for ya. Oh, we've done that before. Now for Maru. Mum, mum, mum. Mum shuts one mouth up, doesn't it? We'll draw a shut mouth like this, and he drew. Then the carp mouth opened. That makes the ma. What about the rrr thing, Taffy? It sounds all rough and edgy, like your shark tooth saw when you're cutting out a plank for the canoe, said Taffy. You mean all sharp at the edges, like this, said Tegumai, and he drew. Exactly, said Taffy. But we don't want all those teeth, only put 2. I'll put in 1, said Tegumai. If this game of ours is going to be what I think it will, the easier we make our sound pictures, the better for everybody. And he drew. Now we've got it, said Tegumai, standing on one leg. I'll draw them all in a string like fish. Hadn't we better put a little bit of stick or something between each word, so as they won't rub up against each other and jostle, same as if they were carps? Oh, I'll leave a space for that, said her daddy. And very excitedly he drew all of them without stopping on a big new bit of birch bark. Shu ya las ya maru, said Taffy, reading it out sound by sound. That's enough for today, said Tegumai. Besides, you're getting tired, Taffy. Never mind, dear. We'll finish it all tomorrow, and then we'll be remembered for years and years after the biggest trees you can see are all chopped up for firewood. So they went home, and all that evening Tegumai sat on one side of the fire, and Taffy on the other, drawing yas and yos and shoes and she's in the smoke of the wall, and giggling together till her mummy said, Really, Tegumai? You're worse than my Taffy. Please don't mind, said Taffy. It's only our secret surprise, Mummy dear. and will tell you all about it the very minute it's done. But please don't ask me what it is now, or else I'll have to tell. So her mummy most carefully didn't, and bright and early the next morning, Tegumai went down to the river to think about new sound pictures. And when Taffy got up, she saw Yalas, which means water is ending or running out, chalked on the side of the big stone water tank outside the cave. Said Taffy, these picture sounds are rather a bother. Daddy's just as good as come here himself and told me to get more water for Mummy to cook with. She went to the spring at the back of her house and filled the tank from a bark bucket. And then she ran down to the river and pulled her daddy's left ear, the one that belonged to the pool when she was good. Now come along and we'll draw all over leftover sound pictures. And said her daddy, and they had the most enticing day of it, and a beautiful lunch in the middle, and 2 games of romps. When they came to tea, Taffy said that as her name, and her daddy's, and her mummy's, all began with that sound, and they should draw a sort of family group with themselves holding hands. That was all very well to draw once or twice, but when it came to drawing it 6 or 7 times, Taffy and Tegumai drew it scratchier and scratchier, till the last T sound was only a thin, long Tegumai with his arms out to hold Taffy and Teshumai. You can see it from these pictures partly how it happened. This one, and this one. Many of the other pictures were much too beautiful to begin with, especially before lunch, but as they were drawn over and over again on the birch bark, they became plainer and easier, till the last even Tegumai said he could find no fault with them. They turned to the hissy snake the other way, round sound for the Z or Z sound, to show it was hissing backwards in a soft and gentle way. They just made a twiddle for E because it came to the pictures so often. And they drew pictures of the sacred beaver of the Tegumais for the B sound, and because it was a nasty, nosy noise. They drew noses for the N sound till they were tired. And they drew a picture of the big lake pike's mouth for the greedy G sound. And they drew the pike's mouth again with a spear behind it for the scratchy, hurty K sound. So that's G. And this one is K. And they drew pictures of a little bit of the winding Wagai River for the nice windy wa sound, and so on and so forth and so following, till they had done and drawn all the sound pictures that they wanted, and there was the alphabet all complete. And after thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and after hieroglyphics and demotics and nilotics and cryptics and cufics and runics and dorics and ionics and all sorts of other rics and tics, the fine old easy understandable alphabet A, B, C, D, E and the rest of them got back into its proper shape again for the best beloveds to learn when they are old enough. That I remember Tegumai and Taffy and Teshumai, her dear mummy, and all the days gone by. And it was so, just so, a long time ago, on the banks of the big Wagai. One of the first things that Tegumai Bopsilai did after Taffy and he made the alphabet was to make a magic alphabet necklace of all the letters so that it could be put in the temple of Tegumai and kept forever and ever. All the tribe of Tegumai brought their most precious beads and beautiful things, and Taffy and Tegumai spent 5 whole years getting the necklace in order. This is the picture of the magic alphabet necklace. The string was made of the finest and strongest reindeer sinew, bound round with thin copper wire. Beginning at the top, the first bead is an old silver one that belonged to the headpiece of the tribe of Tegumai. This is the necklace here. Then come 3 black mussel pearls. Next is clay bead. Next, a nubbly gold bead sent as a present by a tribe who got it from Africa, but it must have been Indian really. The next is a long, flat-sided glass bead from Africa. Then come 2 clay beads with dots on one and dots and bands on the other. Then are 3 rather chipped amber beads. Then 3 clay beads with 2 dots. Then big one, the middle with a toothed pattern. Then the letters begin, and between each letter is a little whitish clay bead with the letter repeated small. Here are the letters. A is a scratched tooth, an alkatush, I think. B is a sacred beaver of Tegumai on a bit of old ivory. C is a pearly oyster shell. D must have been sort of a mussel shell. E is a twist of silver wire. F is broken, but what remains of it is a big stag's horn. G is painted black on a piece of wood. H is kind of big brown cowrie shell. I is the inside part of a long shell ground down by hand. It took Tegumai 3 months to grind it down. J is a fish hook in the mother of pearl. L is the broken spear in silver. K and J ought to follow, but of course the necklace was broken once and they mended it wrong. K is a thin slice of bone scratched and rubbed in black. M is pale on grey shell. N is a piece of what is called porphyry, with a nose scratched on it. O is a piece of oyster with a hole in the middle. P and Q are missing. They were all lost a long time ago, in a great war, and the tribe mended the necklace with the dried rattles of a rattlesnake. But no one ever found P and Q. That is how the saying began, you must mind your P's and Q's. R is of course just a shark's tooth. S is a little silver snake. T is the end of a small bone, polished brown and shiny. U is another piece of oyster shell. W is a twisty piece of mother of pearl that they found inside a big mother of pearl shell. X is silver wire joined in the middle with raw garnet. Y is a carp's tail in ivory. Z is a bell-shaped piece of agate marked with Z-shaped stripes. These are all the letters. The next bead is a small round greeny lump of copper ore. The next lump is rough turquoise. The next is a gold nugget. The next is a melon-shaped clay bead. Then come 4 flat ivory pieces with dots on them, rather like dominoes. I have copied the necklace very carefully. It weighs 1 pound, 7½ ounces. The black squiggle behind it is only to make sure the beads and things look better. that is the end of that story. If you'd like, I could check it out to you. Yeah? Okay. There you go. And here is your library card. And I hope to see you soon in our library getting new books. See you next time.